Hey guys, I'm Lucy Walker and we're going to be looking at making a delicate flower ring. So now we've got our ring blank cut to the correct length, it's time to turn it into something that looks a little more like a ring. And to do that, we're going to use a couple of pairs of pliers. The first ones that we're going to use are these half round and flat pliers. One jaw has a half round and the other jaw is flat. The other pliers that we're going to use are my favourite bow closing pliers. They're also called ring bending pliers. We've modified ours a little bit by just adding some leather on the inside of the outer jaw, and we've done that with double-sided tape. Now your metal is starting bright and scratch-free, and we're going to aim to keep it that way throughout the entire process. So when we start using our pliers, we really want to keep that kind of death grip to an absolute minimum, okay? So as you're bending the wire, if you notice that what you're doing is putting a mark on the metal, stop. Think about how you can correct that. Because if you just carry on, instead of having one mark, you're going to have 50 marks to clean up later. So what we want to do is take our half round and flat pliers and grip the very end of our ring. This is the very end, okay? This is not the very end. So make sure you've got it right at the end there. And now all I'm going to do is very gently bend the wire to create a U shape. There we go. Once I've got that U shape on one side, I'm going to turn my metal around and just do exactly the same from the other side. I'm not aiming to get a round ring at this stage. I really don't mind, as long as my two ends come together perfectly. Chances are though, if this is the first ring band you've made, it doesn't look anything like this. So let's take a look at a couple of the most common screw-ups. Alrighty, so screw-up number one. There's a gap, we can't get it closed. Now that's no drama at all, we can actually fix this with our fingers, and our fingers are one of the best tools that we have because they don't leave any marks. So I'm just going to use my fingers and bend this, just over bend it a little bit and let it snap back into place. You hear that click? Real nice. Okay, we can still see though that there's a little gap in there. It's kind of like a pizza wedge, and that's just where we didn't file the edges perfectly flat to start with. There's a neat little trick here though. We're going to use our saw blade and we're going to cut directly through the join. Now we could do this of course by holding our ring like this and just cutting through, okay? The problem is, look at where my finger is. As soon as I get through that join, oh, bloody hell, that's gonna smash right into my finger, and I can tell you now it ain't going to be pleasant. So what we're going to do is take our saw blade out of the bottom, place it through our ring, and then tighten it up again. And then of course, we're going to add a little bit of burr life to our blade. And I'm going to rotate my ring round and cut through it from the inside out. And look, no fingers behind the blade, no bloodshed. So just cut directly through the join. It's really important to cut and follow the join. We're aiming to cut a little bit of metal off both sides at the same time so that we can't be left with anything but a perfect join. So let's take a look at this now. Okay, looking a lot better. It's still not quite perfect. We've cut through the join once, but I can see there's still a little gap there. So we're just going to repeat the process. I can also see that one of my sides is maybe a little higher than the other. So I'm going to correct that by using my ring bending pliers. The side that is a fraction higher, I'm going to place my ring bending pliers on that side at about 3 or 4 o'clock. I'm going to give it a very gentle squeeze and just bring that side down just a fraction. Much better. Okay, so back in with the saw blade. And again, cut through the joint, directly through. You might have to do this 3 or 4 times. if your edges weren't perfect to start with, it just makes life a little more difficult. But there we go. Now we can see everything's lined up perfectly and we are ready to solder. Okay, so let's take a look at screw up number 2.